I'm giving away this championship belt at 100,000 subscribers, so you already know what to do. Welcome back to the Ango Show. I, of course, am Ango, and today we're going to kick things off with some very interesting news surrounding WWE. Yeah, because Fastlane is sold out. Pretty insane. WWE killing it, constantly killing it with tickets, constantly killing it with attendance and merch sales, and honestly, everything seems to be going right in the direction of WWE, and it's really crazy how all of this started once Triple H took over creative, and a lot of people were wondering, would WWE continue to carry over the momentum once doing the merger with Endeavor? Maybe I'm trying to be optimistic. Maybe I'm trying to be positive and happy and, whatever it may be. But I don't know. There's something about Endeavor having WWE in its umbrella that makes me pretty excited for the future. Now, look, WWE's got a big SmackDown lined up this week. There's some big plans for Raw next week. And we still got to figure out what the card is for Fastlane. They really haven't made that many announcements. Of course, we know that John Cena is going to be part of the card. The expected tag match is Jimmy and Solo versus Cena and LA Knight. Hopefully, we'll get a glimpse into that with SmackDown tonight. But when it comes to Fastlane, the show, it's a B pay-per-view. And I'm really curious to see how WWE books this. I think that's the big thing, right? Naturally, WWE is going to do really well selling tickets to the Big Four. But this year, we've kind of seen a change in WWE where, some of the smaller pay-per-views, Payback was a great example, Backlash was another one, where they've done these smaller pay-per-views and they still do incredibly well with ticket sales and they're delivering great results. I'm hoping Endeavor keeps that up. I'm hoping Endeavor, now that WWE is TKO Group, I'm hoping that there's some synergies there that allows WWE to kind of just have this freedom that allows them to put on the best quality shows possible. And if they're able to do that, then obviously they will continue to sell out shows. Some very interesting stuff came from Dave Meltzer today. Honestly, I don't know how I feel about this, but for those who know what I'm talking about, according to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, it was reported that there are several WWE, ex-WWE stars who see AEW as a step down from WWE. And my goodness, if you guys saw the reaction to this on social media, you would be laughing because, of course, everybody is defending AEW here. He says a lot of ex-WWE talent went to AEW and saw it as a step down, and even though some of them have still been pushed, they haven't really helped the company, although they still may. But there are several that you get the impression that they can't wait to get back to WWE as they see it as the major league if they can get an offer when their AEW deal expires. Now, it's really difficult to speculate who this may be. There's a lot of people on the internet that claim Malachi Black and Andrade are unhappy in AEW. I don't know exactly if that's true. And look, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but I don't necessarily look at AEW as a step down from WWE. I think naturally, when this topic comes up, I think naturally people will say that because WWE is obviously the largest company in the world when it comes to pro wrestling. They have the biggest presence. They are the mainstream appeal. When people talk about wrestling, they typically talk about WWE. I have asked people, there's people that ask me, they're like, hey, what do you do for a living? I say, I talk about wrestling. They say, oh, you cover WWE. They don't even know that there's more out there than WWE. So from that standpoint, I can understand why people would say AEW is a step down. But the reality is AEW pays incredibly well. They have a good TV deal. They work less than WWE. Is it really a step down? I mean, yes, maybe they don't have that mainstream exposure that WWE has, but from a perspective of like overall business, AEW, I mean, really what it comes down to is money, right? And AEW pays extremely well. And I might not agree with all of AEW booking, but obviously a big part of this channel and the things I've talked about is just having a healthy wrestling industry in general. If you can't go to WWE or if you can't be in WWE, at least in AEW, you're getting a pretty nice paycheck. And obviously there's other benefits and stuff like that too. But it is interesting to hear this come from Dave Meltzer. And obviously the reaction online has been quite hilarious because a lot of people think that AEW, this is a shot at AEW or whatever. But yeah, technically speaking, AEW would be a step down. But when it comes to subjective opinions, I would say that it's not really a step down. I mean, If you look at the technicalities of it, sure it is. But I think for AEW, it's a nice spot for those who can't be in WWE. Now it's up to AEW to get to the point where people feel like it's on the same level as WWE from that mainstream appeal. And that's probably the biggest thing here is like, they're not. You know what I mean? WWE, you know, somebody wins the Super Bowl, they're wearing WWE championship belts, not AEW. When you hear people talk about pro wrestling, they talk about WWE. It's always going to be synonymous with pro wrestling, right? And that's not a shot at AEW. That's not a negative thing about AEW. I can understand why people feel that way. I just don't necessarily agree with that. And that brings us to our final story today. Lots of talk about WWE breaking down the Forbidden Door. Keiji Muto, a.k.a. you guys know the Great Muta, he has hinted that WWE and Pro Wrestling Noah could potentially work together. Obviously, we just got the news yesterday that WWE will be on Abema TV, which is the streaming app in Japan, which makes Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and their premium live events free. Now, what's really interesting is there was a new interview with BBM Sports Japan, and he basically talked about how the two companies could like work together and benefit working together. He says Noah is also Abema, right? It is a member of the Cyber Agent Group. Now WWE is also part of Abema, so there's a possibility that something will be born between WWE and Noah. Okay, next time I'll build that bridge. I'll buy Triple H some sushi and I'll bring the receipt to Abema. Wrestling is all about connecting dots to the lines. Guys, there has been this rumor for a while. We've actually talked about this before on the channel, so it's important that you guys don't miss out and you guys actually subscribe. But there had been hints of WWE and Pro Wrestling Noah working together, and it all started off with Shinsuke Nakamura taking part of Keiji Muto's retirement tour, and WWE allowed Shinsuke Nakamura to go to Pro Wrestling Noah, which is not something anybody would ever expect from WWE. And then Great Muta got inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. And then at WWE Payback, Great Muta was also in attendance for Shinsuke versus Seth. There's some synergies there. I think it makes a lot of sense if you're WWE to work with Pro Wrestling Noah. I don't want to talk too much about global localization at this time because there's still a lot of developments. But what I would be paying a lot of attention to is WWE leaving a footprint in Japan with NXT Japan. And I think Pro Wrestling Noah could be a big part of that. I don't expect Pro Wrestling Noah to close down, but I think if WWE is trying to build performance centers around the world and they're trying to recruit talent from around the world and they're trying to put on shows from around the world, Japan could be a very, very strong point for them, especially with that relationship with Noah. So this is definitely something to pay attention to, but I'm excited. I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section down below. And don't forget, I'm giving away this championship at 100,000 subscribers. So at this point, you probably should have clicked subscribe.